Good morning, Year 6, and welcome to a new week of home learning lessons with Mr. Stringer. Today's learning objective is to multiply and divide by 10, 100 and 1000. We're going to start today's lesson with a quick task. I'd like you to look at these numbers, 26, 0.26 and 2600. How are these numbers similar and how are they different? Can you find relationships between them? Pause the video, give yourself time to think and make notes in your home learning book. Let's start with 0.26. The 2 stands for 2/10 and the 6 stands for 6/100. We can also say that 0.26 means 26/100. When looking at the relationship between these three numbers, we know that 26 is 100 times 0.26 and that 2600 is equal to 100 times 26. Using this information, can you tell me what 100 times 2600 is? Pause the video and have a little think. That's right, 100 times 2600 is 260,000. Now, when looking at the relationship between these numbers, one thing does not change. The digits do not change. The place value that these digits are in changes, but the digits themselves do not. Remember that later, as that will come in handy. We're going to look at three more numbers now. 0.157, 157 and 157,000. How are these numbers similar and how are they different? Can you find relationships between them? Pause the video and give yourself time to think, and remember, make notes in your home learning book. I'm going to start with the smallest number again, 0.157. The 1 stands for 1/10. The 5 stands for 5/100ths, and the 7 stands for 7/1000ths. We can also say that 0.157 means 157,000ths. Let's look at the relationship between these numbers now. 0.157 can be times by 1,000 to make 157. That means 157 is 1,000 times bigger than 0.157. We can then take 157 and times that by 1,000 to make 157,000. Using this knowledge, can you tell me what 157,000 is times by 1,000? Pause the video, give yourself time to work that out. Well done everyone, I'm sure you got that right. Makes a very large number, makes 157 million. Again, you'll notice that the digits haven't changed, just their position on a place value grid. So, how can we divide this number by 10, 100 and 1000? Let's have a look. We can use a place value grid to help us, and that's what we're going to do. So using this place value grid, we're going to divide this number by 10, 100 and 1000. So the first step is to make sure that the number is in the correct place values on the grid. Let's start by dividing this number by 10. We are making this number smaller, so it moves down the place value grid. The numbers move but never change. When dividing by 10, the number moves one place. Now let's divide this number by 100. We are making this number smaller, so it moves down the place value grid. The numbers move but never change. When dividing by 100, the number moves two places, making the new number 3.54. Now let's divide this number by 1000. Again, we are making this number smaller, so it moves down the place value grid. The numbers move but never change. When dividing by 1000, the number moves three places this time. And now we have nothing in the units column, so we must use a placeholder and add a 0 to identify that there are no units. This now makes the new number 0.354. How can we multiply this number by 10, 100 and 1000? So again, we're going to be using a place value grid to help us multiply this number by 10, 100 and 1000. Your starting point is always to make sure that this number starts in the correct place value. Let's start by multiplying this number by 10. We are making the number larger, so it moves up the place value grid this time. The numbers move but never change. When multiplying by 10, the numbers move one place. This makes the new number 8.34. Now let's multiply this by 100. We are making the number larger again, so it moves up the place value grid. Again, the numbers move but never change. And when multiplying by 100, this time the numbers move two places, making the new number 83.4. And finally, let's multiply this number by 1000. We are making the number larger again, so it moves up the place value grid. Like always, the numbers move but never change. And when multiplying by 1000, we move the numbers three places, making the number 834. Time for a quick task. I would like you to multiply this number by 10, 100 and 1000. Remember to use this place value grid to support your learning. Pause the video now and give yourself time to do this activity. Let's see how you did. So 0.756 times by 10 is 7.56. When we times it by 100, it's 75.6. And when we times it by 1000, it's 756. Time for another quick task. This time, I would like you to divide this number by 10, 100 and 1000. Again, I'd like you to use this place value grid to support your learning. So pause the video and give yourself time to do the task. So let's have a look at those answers. So 467 divided by 10 is 46.7. When we divide it by 100, it's 4.67. And when we divide it by 1000, it's 0.467. Time for today's main task. Complete the worksheets on the Year 6 Home Learning page on the school website. Start with the green to secure your understanding, and then, if you would like to challenge yourself, try the blue sheets. Well done, Year 6. That's the end of today's home learning maths lesson. See you tomorrow for the next maths home learning lesson.